Hello everyone, welcome to Anime No Me, and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. In today's video, we're going to talk about the greatest power Luffy currently possesses. Now, Conqueror's Haki is one of the most powerful techniques, which very few people can obtain the power of, and because so few people in the world can use it, it's said that individuals who possess this skill are destined to be great conquerors. So far in the story of One Piece, 19 people have been shown thus far to possess this technique. 2 of them are filler characters, 4 have lost their lives, which leaves only 13 living people who possess the power, and they are some of the strongest characters in our story. In today's video, we're going to talk about Conqueror's Haki, when our protagonist used this technique, and other characters who possess it, and the amazing powers this incredible technique bestows. But before diving into the video, if you're new to the channel, we'd be honored if you'd consider leaving us a like, or even subscribing with a comment letting us know what you thought of the video. It really helps us out, and if you really like our content, consider sharing the video with friends to help our channel even more. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So to begin, Conqueror's Haki was first demonstrated in our story by Shanks when he used the power to scare off a Sea King, preventing it from eating Luffy, although this fact wasn't fully explained or revealed at the time. Later, during a meeting with Edward Newgate, also known as Whitebeard, he used this to knock out several members of the Yonko's crew, where only a few managed to keep their minds untouched as they used their willpower to remain conscious. Now, as for our main character Luffy, he first showed the effects of this type of Haki against Duval's bull, Motobaro, but again, at this point, we didn't really know it was Conqueror's Haki or just a means to scare the bull, but it could be that this may have been the first time that Luffy awakened his power. Another demonstration of this power was during the battle that took place in Marineford. This event was the first time we were told the true name of this power and what it could really mean. During the Battle of Marineford, Luffy unleashed his Conqueror's Haki in the midst of the fighting, and this demonstration was enough to make the Marine Admirals take notice, and this led them to prioritize eliminating Luffy, after all seeing that he possessed this incredible power. A little while later, Luffy again displayed his Conqueror's Haki on Amazon Lily. Now this was while he was finding Sandersonia and Marigold, knocking out a large part of the audience that was watching the match. Following the time skip and his training with Rayleigh, Luffy is now able to control this technique and is able to use his Haki whenever he wants, easily taming monsters or knocking down other humans or enemies. Now further with this training during the time skip, Luffy is now able to use his Conqueror's Haki on individual enemies or a group if he wishes, and even when unconscious, Luffy is able to use this technique, demonstrating that Luffy has mastered much of this power. Now as it's been explained in the manga, the Conqueror's Haki is a rare form of Haki that cannot be obtained through training. Where armament and observation can be developed through training, only 1 in several million people have Conqueror's Haki. And with this type of Haki, the user can exert their willpower over the willpower of others, and they can even apply it in more advanced ways. Now, it has been said that whoever possesses this type of Haki has the qualities of a king, so whoever possesses Conqueror's Haki may be destined to be a very powerful person in the future, able to conquer whatever it is they wish. Rayleigh explained the idea during Luffy's training, where he shared the idea that conquerors can be enhanced by enhancing the user's will, and it seems the victims of a Conqueror's Haki attack experience the sensation of chills coursing all through their body. Now, even though we've seen conquerors used in bursts, one can also use it to destroy physical objects. As we saw when Shanks visited Whitebeard's ship, parts of the ship started breaking due to Shanks's unbearable Haki pressure. So now that we've covered what Conqueror's Haki is, let's consider the users we've seen throughout the story of One Piece. Beginning with the characters that are still alive, there are 13 in total. Now, if we start with Shanks, who we've just been talking about, he's used Conqueror's Haki twice. Now we also have Luffy, who is currently trying to improve his power, Rayleigh, who was responsible for teaching Luffy how to use his Haki during the time skip. Among the warlords, we had Boa Hancock, who was said to possess Conqueror's Haki, as well as Doflamingo, who used it during his childhood to make people who were trying to take his life faint. In the Dressrosa arc, we came across Shin Zhao, who used it in the Colosseum fight against Luffy, and we also have Big Mom, who's used it several times in combat, and of course Katakuri, who used it in his fight with Luffy while in Whole Cake. We've also seen Eustace Kid use Conqueror's Haki during the Wano arc to assert his will over Kaido's pirates. The former Fleet Admiral Sengoku is said to possess Conqueror's Haki, and of course we've seen Kaido use it several times against Luffy. And although the anime seems to indicate it, it seems Jinbei also possesses this power, but we really don't have any way to confirm this. The newest person to have demonstrated Conquerors is of course Zoro, who used it unconsciously during an attack against Kaido in their conflict in Wano. And finally, we've also seen Yamato use it against Kaido in the 2 fights we've seen them have. Now there are 4 other pirates who had it but are no longer alive, but for today's discussion we felt it was really worth bringing them up. Now, of course we had Edward Newgate, also known as Whitebeard, Luffy's brother Ace, Odin, and of course the former Pirate King Goldie Roger. And all of them were shown to use this power at least during once throughout our story. Now to round out our discussion, we also have two non-canonical Conqueror's Haki users, who are of course Naguri and Douglas Bullet. Now, they were both movie characters or kind of from One Piece filler, but we want to make sure that we mention everybody because they are characters with an interesting backstory and could eventually be called canon. Now, as Conqueror's Haki is used by different practitioners, we see that it can be used to temporarily dominate, control, or even intimidate the will of your opponent. And it's also been shown being used on animals in the very first episodes of One Piece, where Shanks, of course, again scared the Sea King away from Luffy. Now, normally when animals are affected by Conqueror's Haki, they generally become submissive to the user, and really the only side effect of the fainting seems to be with humans. Now, the person in the story that we've seen use this power the most, of course, is Shanks, and it's been in scenes where they were quite impactful to our narrative, especially when he visited Whitebeard's ship and we not only saw him knock out people, but do damage. Now, it's important to mention that Conqueror's Haki isn't a completely cover-all, take everybody out. There are people who do possess too much willpower to have anyone exert their will over them, and these people are able to stay focused and sometimes can even shrug off Conqueror's Haki's attacks. But again, if the Conqueror's Haki user is that powerful, they can even knock out a crowd of enemies. Just to give an example, we saw Luffy, while on Fishman Island, knocked out 50,000 of the 100,000 fishmen that were in that place. And also, since Shanks is stronger in Haki than Luffy, it said that he could knock out the 100 fishmen just there by himself. Now, it's interesting that the holders of this Conqueror's Haki really have little to no experience about how it works, and often manifest this ability in moments of desperation or life-threatening situations, affecting everyone nearby, including their allies. Now, when this user is normally being immobilized or is unable to do something, they always give a scream, and then unconsciously waves of this Conqueror's Haki comes out, knocking out nearby enemies. And it is only then where it's revealed that people have this special ability. So although this Conqueror's Haki may come naturally or as a gift, the user still has to train and master this type of Haki, and being able to use it with more control by just simply looking at an opponent or going so far as to incapacitate a specific audience rather than affecting everyone around them or innocents or allies. As I've already mentioned, incapacitation can also be used even if the user is knocked out, such as when Luffy was in Wano and used it after being defeated by Kaido. Now, for the audience, it's quite easy to notice when a user is showing off their Conqueror's Haki in combat, because if there are two users fighting with this power, it gives off rays called Haki shock in the collision of the blows. And in the anime, it's quite visible when this power is being used, but initially we never saw it because we didn't have context. Now, a great example of this Haki shock is when Luffy uses his Conqueror's Haki to stop Doflamingo from hitting Law in Dressrosa. It was also demonstrated in the Colosseum fight between Luffy and Don Shinjao when they collided in the Colosseum. We see lightning that had a very different design begin to show out in the course of the anime. Now, in addition to the special lightning, when two great conquerors clash, it creates tremor waves that will shake the surrounding area and blow flora and fauna back as if there is a great wind. And of course, the classic example that we've always seen and almost live for every time is when the two clash and they split the sky. Now, aside from those abilities, it has recently been shown that Conqueror's Haki users of a very rare breed can use their Haki and infuse their spirit or even their weapons with this Haki in a very similar way to armament Haki, and this greatly increases the power of their attacks. After developing this form of Conqueror's Haki in this way, it's emitted as an invisible layer protection, and we've seen this go in Rogers and Whitebeard's clash when they met years ago. We've seen it with Kaido's Kanabo, Big Mom's fists, Luffy's fists and kicks. So this is something that extends even further. So with this application of Conquerors, not only does one get an incredibly great increase in their attack power, it's the very thing that's allowed Luffy to hold his own against Kaido, pretty much the man known as the most powerful creature in the world. Luffy has been able to attack Kaido without even touching him, but still damaging the Yonko with this power. So while Luffy's advanced armament Haki was quite good, it was still a failure and didn't even do any damage to Kaido. Now, Luffy might have been able to defend off Kaido's Kanabo with a kick, but the most he could really do was just lessen the damage and still was being punished by the Yonko. But when Luffy was able to apply his Conquerors, it became a battle of a whole different sort. So in conclusion, when we look at Conqueror's Haki in total, this is an incredibly powerful technique, capable of turning the bearer into a character strong enough to be able to fight a Yonko on equal footing. But we also have to make note that even though a person might have Conqueror's Haki, it doesn't mean that they actually know how to apply it to their weapons or anything like that. So this technique is really incredibly powerful, but it isn't just a one-off, if they have it, then they can take out anybody. Because when it really comes down to it, although this Haki is a great aid to you and your side, you have to really be able to defeat the will of your opponent to overcome this and truly achieve the victory you want. So with our story told today, we'd like to know what you think about it. Which other characters do you think might develop Conqueror's Haki? How powerful might it be? be? And who do you think might be the very next person on the Straw Hat crew to develop it? Leave your opinion in the comments below. And as we wrap up our time together, we want to thank you so much for watching the video until the very end. Comment on any themes or ideas that you'd like to see in future videos. And also, since you made it this far, give us a like as you head out to take on the rest of your day. Hope to see you in all in our next video, and let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.